Hare Krishna, dear devotees, you're all very welcome in today's session where we are presenting gems from Srimadbhagavatam. Today we are presenting a very important verse from Srimadbhagavatam, 5th canto, 5th chapter, verse 18. This is from Lord Rishabhadev's teachings to his sons. Hare Krishna, please join us for the invocation prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiryet Shavatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shamana Kirtanaha Hridayantastho Bhadrani Vidhunoti Suhasatam Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatir Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please join us in the recitation of this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.18. Guru nasasya swajano nasasyat pita nasasyat janani nasasyat devam natasya napatischa sasya namo chayedyah samupet mrityum. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. One who cannot deliver his dependence from the path of repeated birth and death should never become a spiritual master, a father, a husband, a mother, or a worshipable demigod. Hare Krishna Devi, could you please read the purport?
Hare Krishna. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. There are many spiritual masters, but Rishabhdev advises that one should not become a spiritual master if he is unable to save his disciple from the path of birth and death. Unless one is a pure devotee of Krishna, he cannot save himself from the path of repeated birth and death. Tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. One can stop birth and death only by returning home, back to Godhead. However, who can go back to Godhead unless he understands Supreme Lord in truth? Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvata. So earlier the line we read, this is the first line, and then second line was read earlier. So we have many instances in history illustrating Rishabhdev's instructions. Shukracharya was rejected by Bali Maharaj due to his inability to save Bali Maharaj from the path of repeated birth and death. Shukracharya was not a pure devotee. He was more or less inclined to fruitive activity. And he objected when Bali Maharaj promised to give everything to Lord Vishnu. Actually, one is supposed to give everything to Lord because everything belongs to the Lord. Consequently, the Supreme Lord advises in Bhagavad Gita, Yat karoshi yadashnasi yajuhoshi dadasiyat yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushva madarpanam. O son of Kunti, all that you do, all you eat, all that you offer and give away, as well as all austerities that you may perform, should be done as an offering unto me. This is bhakti. Unless one is devoted, he cannot give everything to Supreme Lord. Unless one can do so, he cannot become a spiritual master, husband, father, or mother. Similarly, the wives of Brahmins who were performing sacrifices gave up their relatives just to satisfy Krishna. This is an example of a wife rejecting a husband who cannot deliver her from the impending dangers of birth and death. Similarly, Prahlad Maharaj rejected his father. And Bharat Maharaj rejected his mother. Janani nasa syat. The word Daivam indicates a demigod or one who accepts worship from a dependent. Ordinarily, the spiritual master, husband, father, mother, or superior relative accepts worship from an inferior relative, but here Rishabdev forbids this. First, the father, spiritual master, or husband must be able to release the dependent from repeated birth and death. If he cannot do this, he plunges himself into an ocean of reproachment for his unlawful activities. Everyone should be responsible, very responsible, and take charge of his dependents, just as a spiritual master takes charge of his disciple or a father takes charge of his son. All these responsibilities cannot be discharged honestly unless one can save the dependent from repeated birth and death. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Devi. Dear devotees, please join us in the recitation of Guru Pranati so that we get the blessings from the Acharyas, from Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshitarine Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripa tadaham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So this is one of those verses which has got 6 verses packed into one. And so today we are looking at this from an acronym DRIVE. Who can be in the driving seat of our life? So we have to understand from this, and this acronym DRIVE is where D stands for deliverance. Because true leadership means freeing dependence from repeated birth and death. In today's world, even in Prabhupada's times, and even in Jiva Goswami's times, or even before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time, there have been so many so-called gods. Hare Krishna. And these so-called gods were just misleading the general populace, the innocent populace, by showing some kind of miracle, that's what they would say, some kind of magic. They would give little bhabhuti, they say, little ashes, and people would get cured of their diseases. And people would consider such personalities as Bhagwan, as Supreme Personality of Godhead. And they were exploiting the human populace and even all the other resources on this planet Earth, in that mood of enjoyment, while not really taking care of the true problems in human life. Janam, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, Dukkha, Doshanudashanam, birth, death, old age, disease. These are the true miseries. However, they were looking at Vyadhi, difficulties, diseases, and they were just giving some solution. But that solution is only for this particular body. That's not for our true self. The soul wants to get out of the cycle of birth and death to be truly happy. Otherwise, it's stuck in this world. And what's the nature of this world? Dukhalayam shashvatam. It's a place of misery, and it is temporary in nature. Nothing stays permanent. So here, deliverance is an important aspect in drive, where true leadership means freeing dependence. And dependence could be in various ways, just like those who are leaders can be in various ways. And this verse talks about it. The spiritual master being one. And Srila Prabhupada in his lecture many times, he referred to saying that Guru refers to teachers as well. So we have been, studying all our lives when we started as children, and there were various teachers. And all these teachers, yes, they wanted to give us knowledge so that we can sustain ourselves in this world. But the true motive behind is that they should be able to deliver us from the cycle of birth and death. And at some level, they equip us. It's not that they have to tell us, not the second grade teacher has to make sure that the child understands, I'm not this body, I'm spirit soul. They have to equip us, give us resources so that we can carry out our responsibility. So again, sometimes people say, oh, such and such person was my teacher, they never guided me. Well, they equipped us with those resources so that we can further look at the path. Which reminds me of a very short story. And it's actually part of my profession. I give this story at work as well. Is where a father, he was very sick, and at night, they heard some sound at a distance in their barn, but there was the barn was at a greater distance. And so he said to his daughter that, can you please take the lantern and go there? But she was like saying, my dear father, the barn is so far away. With the lantern, I cannot see all the way. So the father said, the lantern gives you enough light that you can see 5 to 6 yards around you, around the lantern. So you walk that 5 to 6 yard distance, and as you walk further, it will give you ability to see 5 to 6 yards. And this way you will be able to reach the destination. And that light at the barn will be your guiding light, because that's the goal that you have to achieve. Our life is like that, my dear devotees, that when we are approaching the supreme destination, we have to get out of this material world to be with the Supreme Lord, with Lord Krishna. We have to understand, yes, he's the goal. Love of Godhead is the goal. Srila Prabhupada very clearly identifies. Yet at the same time, we cannot immediately take that jump. We have to take our steps slowly and slowly. And so that's why Srila Rupa Goswami gives us 6 motivating things that can help us reach that supreme goal. Utsaha nishchaya dhairya tat karma pravartana sangya tyaga sato vritte sadvir bhakti prasiddhati. Utsahan, we should be very enthusiastic, very jubilant that yes, we have received such a great boon that we are taking to devotional service. Nishchaya, we should be determined. We should never waver. Lord Krishna tells us, that those who are on this particular path, they have one goal. And we also see from Arjun's example, when Dronacharya asked, all the children all his students to shoot the eye of the bird, Arjun was the only one who said, I see only the eye of the bird, nothing else. So again, we have to have that determination. And Arjun also, Shishyasteham, again, he's saying that I'm your student, Lord Krishna, when he was bewildered. So many times in our life, we get bewildered, where we should select a guru, a teacher, who can make us reach the goal, who can at least show us that light, what's at the end of the tunnel. And that goal is very important. And so the daughter, based on her father, the farmer's advice, used the lantern to, see little distance as she walked. And as she walked, it continued to guide like around if there is grass or any snake or anything that could be dangerous, so she can walk. So similarly, we in our lives every day can make small progress towards our goal, just like she was trying to reach the barn, and the light at the barn, that was her final goal to reach, to make sure that she can reach there and check on all the animals and everything is good or not. So here, dhairyat, sannishyat dhairyat, patience is also very important, the third quality. That, yes, we cannot immediately reach the destination instantly. As Srila Prabhupada said, that if we are pure and we are determined and fully dedicated, in a moment we can be Krishna conscious, which refers to the fact that we have to put Krishna in the center, not ourselves, and focus on 24/7 giving service. to Krishna. Yes, in the beginning it is mechanical. That's why we call practitioners. But over a period of time, by the mercy of Sadhguru and Shastra, it becomes spontaneous. And we follow the acharyas. That's why we are also referred to as Rupa Nugas, the followers of Srila Rupa Goswami. And thus we can achieve our destination. Usaha Nishadharya Tat Karma Pravartana. Tat Karma Pravartana refers to the 9 processes of devotional service. Shravanam Ketanam Vishnu Smaranam Pada Sevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atma Nivedanam. So by following the 9 processes of devotional service, which is Abhideya. So Sambandh is who am I as a spirit soul, and who is Lord Krishna, and what is our relationship? Jivera Sarupaya Krishna and Nityadas, that's the relationship. Abhideya is the process of devotional service, 9 processes, and then Prayojana is the goal, love of Godhead. Acharyas make this big, complex subject matter so easy for us to understand. Sangha Tyagat. So again, giving up the association of worldly minded people. Sato Vritte, following in the footsteps of Acharyas. When you follow the footsteps of Acharyas, there are 2 ways people follow. One is right, following, imitating their Anukaran and Anusharan. Anukaran is imitating their actions. Sometimes we see that a student is just acting like the teacher so that everyone would think that they have become the teacher. But in reality, those who follow the instructions of teachers are the true students, not who act like the teacher. So, Anusharan, one who has taken shelter of the structures of the spiritual master, just like Srila Prabhupada. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he met Srila Prabhupada first time, he said, "You are young boys and you know how to write in English. Why don't you translate this great literature in English and take it to, give it to the Western world?" Srila Prabhupada understood the instruction and its purport. The instruction was to translate our great literature, Bhagavad Gita, Srimadbhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, into English. And then he understood the purport that I have to take it to the Western world and deliver it to them in a way that they can accept it. Srila Prabhupada, when many times was asked that, you are taking this Srimad Bhagavatam and the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, you are delivering it yourself. He was very clear that these books are sold not by placing them on the shelf. Actually, my Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, he shared this great insight that once upon a time they had set up in a very famous bookstore. They placed this book, Bhagavad Gita as it is, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and other books in the front display section. But not many books were sold. And when he took this aspect, the statistics that Srila Prabhupada, we had such a big bookstore and we display all your books, but not many were sold. Why? Srila Prabhupada at that time revealed this secret that actually books are not sold by being put on display. Books are sold by the enthusiasm of his disciple. Just like in the Western world, everyone accepted Krishna consciousness by the inspiration, by looking at Srila Prabhupada as how dedicated, how committed, and how determined and patient he was in the process. And that was attractive. And Srila Prabhupada also reflects that we have to be, those who are following Krishna consciousness, who have taken to Krishna consciousness, who have dedicated their lives in devotional service for the pleasure of Shri Shri Radha Krishna, they have to be perfect gentlemen and ladies. When we say this, it is not just something we say, but we actually have to put it in a, practice it so that we carry it out in our behavior. And that is the mood. Sanget Tyaga Satovritti Sadbir Bhakti Prasiddhati. So when we follow these instructions, the 8 aspects, Utsahan, determination, Nishchaya, Utsahan is great enthusiasm. Nishchayat is determination, Dhairyat, patience, Tat Karma Pravartana, 9 processes of devotional service, Sangatyagat, giving up the association of worldly minded people, Satovritti, following in the footsteps of great acharyas by following their instructions. Our devotional service is empowered to a higher level. And thus we can easily attain our goal. So determination is a very important aspect in life. And deliverance. T is for deliverance and R is for responsibility. The responsibility is accepting authority, means accepting accountability for souls under care. So again, as a teacher, as mentors, as coaches, as spiritual masters, and of course, in this particular verse, we heard about 6 type of roles that one could be taking on. What are these 6 roles? Guru na sa syad, swajano na sa syad, pata na sa syad, chanani na sa syad. Devam na tatsyan, na patishcha sa syan, namo cha yedyaha samupetya mrityum. So, one who is a spiritual master or a teacher is a leadership role. So again, these are the 6 leadership roles that have been identified. Swajana. Swajana is referred to as relative. And how do we understand? Means there have been so many examples of relatives. And Srila Prabhupada, in his purport, says that Bharat, he gave up his mother because she did not act. So which Bharat is he? This is not the Bharat who's son of Shakuntala and Dumna. Or he's not the Bharat Maharaj who's son of Rishabdev. This is the Bharat from Ramayana, the son of Kekai. And so he gave up his mother because he saw that his mother's action were not correct. Instead of giving pleasure to Lord Ramchandra, she actually sent him into exile, 14 years of vanvas, into forest life. And so he immediately became upset and he gave her up from that mood. Later on, of course, when Lord Ramchandra returned, and when Bharat also met Lord Ramchandra at Chitrakoot, at that time also, Lord Ramchandra pacified him. But finally, he accepted his mother when Lord Ramchandra returned after killing Ravan and along with many of the Vanasena generals as well as Vibhishan and Sugriv, and he returned back to Ayodhya. So it's very important for us to understand that, yes, even Swajana, a friend in need is a friend indeed. We should look from that particular perspective. Not everyone is a friend. We have to understand from relative perspective. Duryodhan was actually, Duryodhan's daughter was married to Samba, who's Lord Krishna's son. So they were in-laws from that perspective. And we also know that Vasudev was brother of Kunti. So Pandavas were cousins, and that makes Kaurava second cousins. So there was a relationship. But Duryodhan, was he benevolently, disposed in serving Krishna? No, he was not. He was always looking out for his benefit. It's very interesting. We see 3 amazing personalities in Mahabharata, in this pastime of Lord Krishna, where we see Yudhishthira Maharaj accepting all those principles of dharma which actually hurt him, which go against him. And he's on the receiving side. He's getting the shorter end of the stick. While Duryodhana, he's following all the principles of religion which benefit him. And Lord Krishna, he's violating every religious principle for the benefit of his devotees. And here we can see, yes, Swajana, right, a relative. So Duryodhana is a relative, but is he really behaving as a proper relative towards Yudhishthira Maharaj, or even towards Lord Krishna? He tried to arrest Lord Krishna when Lord Krishna went to Hastinapur as a messenger of the Pandavas. And Pitana Sasya. And one should not become a father. Now, sometimes people say, well, now I have a son or a daughter. What can I do? I am already a father. In this regard, Srila Prabhupada from his life gives a very important example. Many of the sannyasi disciples of Srila Prabhupada, they were very young. And this material world is very attractive. So many of them fell from their position, being lured by material energy. And at that time, Srila Prabhupada said, actually, you were not qualified. He gathered the other disciples who were still in the sannyas order of life. He said, you were not qualified to be sannyasis. I made you sannyasis. Now you make yourself qualified. Similarly, we may not be qualified when we became parents, but we have to now become qualified by following the, three references, Sadhguru and Shastra. That is also our responsibility, not someone else's. Sometimes there is a what the heck effect, right? We see this what the heck effect, especially during Ekadashi time, where we are supposed to be fasting. And my mistake, sometimes devotees, they forget that it's an Ekadashi day and they take grain and they say, oh, I already didn't follow Ekadashi, let me just forget about fasting and take all kind of grace. That's the biggest mistake. First one was innocent mistake. But now this is grievous, means this is serious mistake by taking to Granth throughout the day, thinking that you have not maintained Ekadashi. Lord Krishna is in our heart, He is our best friend. Ishwar Sarva Bhutana Hridadeshi Ajanitishthati. So He is in our heart and He is, of course, our best well-wisher. So He understands when we make a when we commit an error or make an error or mistake unknowingly. But He also is watching when knowingly we are making mistake, because that is more serious. So we should not use what the heck effect. And similarly, yes, now that we have become parents, so we can say, oh, pita na sa syaj, janina na sa syat. So one should not become a father or one should not become a mother if they cannot deliver the dependence. That's a very serious thing. So we as parents have now taken up the responsibility to be able to deliver them. So we should understand from that perspective. And it's a very simple process. We already talked about Sambandha Videya Prayojana. We follow that and help who are in our care to follow that path, putting Lord Krishna in the center and everything to be used in His service. Yat karoshi yadashnasi yadjuhoshi tadasi yad yat tapasyasi kante tat kurishwa mada pranam. Bhagavad Gita 9.27 verse, Srila Prabhupada referred in the purport, is basically saying whatever activities you do, yat karoshi yadashnasi, whatever you accept, yadjuhoshi tadasi yad, yat tapasyasi kante. So whatever sacrifices, charity and austerity and penances that you perform, they all should be performed in my service, as an offering to me. Now, when Lord Krishna is revealing it, we can perform all these activities with three factors: mind, body, and words. So we have to carry out those activities. And even Lord Brahma glorifies those who carry out. Tatte anukampam susamekshamano bhunjane vatma kritam vipakam hridavak vapurbhir vidadam namaste jivetya mukti pade sadaya bhak. Tatte anukampam susamikshamaano bunjane varma kritam vipakam. Hridavak vapurbhi. So those who are in this devotion life, engaging and accepting everything that's coming on them as reaction of their past mistakes, are carrying out still their devotional service, engagement in devotional service for the pleasure of Radha Krishna. Hriday Vak Vabhurve. Hriday refers to heart, but in this case, it's referred to mind. Vak is voice or speech. And Vapur is referring to the body, mind, body, and words. So these are the three ways. Then, of course, such a son, just like a son who is carrying out the orders of his father and is an obedient son, automatically become an heir of the father's property. Similarly, a living entity in this mood of serving the Lordship and accepting everything, whatever is happening, with grace. Because our hand sometimes, as part of the reaction, is supposed to be cut. But Lord Krishna gives a small scratch as a token that yes, you performed such a grievous act, but now that you are performing service to me, let me, just give you a reminder. So devotees, we feel very much blessed that Lord is so merciful that He is still giving us the facilities. And in this way, we can continue to move forward. And when we are continuing to carry out our responsibilities, it's accepting the authority to be a parent is also very important, because then we are saying that we are accountable for the souls who are under our care, the children that we have been put, they are under our care. And then I in drive is for integrity. So as a leader, one must embody purity, not hypocrisy, in guiding others. This is very important. In this regard, we have seen so many examples. Once the teachers called the parents of a child because the child was stealing the pencils and the sharpeners and rubbers of other students in the class. And the principal said, "This is not accepted." The father looked at the son and became very angry. He said, "Why are you stealing from others? I'm bringing so many pencils, pens, and rubbers and sharpeners and notebooks from my work. Why do you have to steal from others?" Well, right then and there, the principal is like, "Oh, the father is setting the example. The children is just following his example." So again, we have to be very much careful not to be hypocritical in our behavior. And V is for vision, that the spiritual guidance requires vision beyond material gain. And this regard, as we were discussing, Srila Prabhupada, many times he stressed that there are so-called spiritual masters in this world who are looking to get the service from their disciples, but not really helping the disciples attain perfection in their life. So such spiritual masters are not really helping the disciples. And we see so many examples in everyday life. And Srila Prabhupada gives the perfect example from the Shastras, the example of Shukracharya. Bali Maharaj, when he saw Vaman Dev coming to the Yajna Sthali, this is at the banks of Narmada, and that's where all the Bhrigu descendants, and Shukracharya is son of Bhrigu, they were performing this yajna after Bali Maharaj had become the emperor of the universe, not emperor of a planet Earth, not emperor of heavenly planets, but of the universe. And so Bali Maharaj, he receives the indication from Shukracharya, "Oh, this is Vishnu, don't be cheated." So Bali Maharaj first thought was, if Lord Vishnu has come to my home to beg something, everything actually belongs to him. So I should offer everything that he desires. But then immediately Shukracharya, thinking that if he gives everything away, Bali Maharaj, then I will lose everything, right? I will not have so many opulences and so much command over, wealth and so forth. And in this way, he tried to divert Bali Maharaj away from surrendering everything at the lotus feet of Vaman Dev. And Bali Maharaj immediately rejected his spiritual master because he understood that his spiritual master does not understand what's the purpose of life, that everything is meant to be offered to Lord Krishna. So we have to understand from the right perspective that everything belongs to Lord Krishna. Bhoktaram yagatapasam sarvalok maheshwaram suridam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantim richati. So in this particular verse, which is also known as Peace Formula, 5.29 Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Bhoktaram yagatapasam. So who's the beneficiary of all yagya, tap, and other activities, as we were discussing? It is Lord Krishna. Sarvalok Maheshwaram, who is the supreme proprietor of all material and spiritual universes that can be there? Lord Krishna. And who's the best friend? Suhidam Sarvabhutana. Lord Krishna. So one who knows this and follows it by actions, by mind, body, and words, those are the three ways we can carry out these actions, has attained perfection, because one can be at peace. And once we are at peace, we can focus on our goal, which will continue to keep us in a blissful state. So vision is important, and this vision has to go beyond material gains. And finally, E in drive refers to empowerment. So the real guru, a real parent, a real spouse, again, not just Pita and Mata, right? Pita na sa syaj janini na sa syad. There is worshipable demigods. Devam na tatsyam na patischasa syam. So those who are like demigods, and this earthly planets, what are demigods? The Brahmanas, yes. So one should not even be a Brahmana or a demigod. There are 3.3, 33 crore Devi Devta, 330 million demigods. Right? One should not be a demigod to be in a worshipable or respectable position without taking care of those who are, respecting them, those who are dependent on them. And similarly, a husband. Now, a husband is taking charge of his wife. She has left her family to come under his care. And so it is the responsibility of the husband to make sure that she gets delivered. And this is the empowerment aspect, that they empower others for Krishna Bhakti, not bondage. So when they are engaged in a family life, now sometimes people say, how can a husband be engaged in material life versus engaged in devotional life? Well, there is a tendency in the material world that the husband thinks, oh, I'm providing for my wife, so she must serve me. And that's where the master and slave relationship starts. We see everyone who's in a leadership uh, role looking at exploiting those who are under their care is in a material consciousness, looking at satisfying their senses. While in reality, it is the responsibility of a leader to make sure that those who are under their care are able to follow and carry out the instructions so that they can be delivered from the cycle of birth and death. So again, we have so many preachers all around the world, and they are constantly engaging others in reading Bhagavad Gita, Srimadbhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and wonderful literature provided by Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas. And they are doing this so that they can empower others to be able to come out of the cycle of birth and death. And what is the role of those who are dependent? They are supposed to be disciples. Disciples means one is ready to be disciplined. So sometimes a teacher or a student, a teacher or a guru or a devta, once again in this case, a brahmana, and even other roles like a husband or father and mother, they have to discipline their dependents. And that is very important because they are looking for the benefit of the dependents. And sometimes people have this tendency in material world not follow such parents. They are thinking that, these are not great leaders because they are not giving us what we want. In this regard, we have to be very much cautious that these leaders are not to provide us what we want. They are to provide us what we lack. And so they are asking us to improve our services, to improve our focus so that we can achieve where we want to be. We want to receive the love of Godhead. We want to be with Radha Krishna. And those leaders who actually want to exploit their dependence, then they use such aspects of manipulating their dependence and glorifying them sometimes in public so that they think, oh, I'll glorify this person. Now this person will give a lot to me to please me. And that's a cheating religion that goes on. So we have to be very, very careful of the cheating religion that is being practiced on a daily basis. And sometimes we see creeping this because Maya is very strong. We talked about goddess Parvati, right? Who's in a Shatrani form, she appears as goddess Durga. And she's very influential, and her service is thankless because she's not the one who's making us fall down. She is presenting us things that we make ourselves fall down. So who's the true enemy? It is us, not her. She is just making sure that only those who are surrendered souls can go back home, back to Godhead. And we have to stay that single pointed attention, have that focus that Arjun had so that we can go back home, back to Godhead. And with the drive, we can see how we can focus on deliverance, be responsible for our actions, and make sure that those who are under care are carrying out their responsibility nicely with integrity. carrying out our activities. Acharya means that one who guides others by their own example. Sometimes we see parents, they're coming and saying, oh, Prabhu and Mataji, you are getting these Bhagavad Gita classes and you're helping children go. So why don't you just take care? So again, when we're teaching children, at that time they would say, we want our children to get the education. And then this was always a doubt. So I would ask, like, why are you not interested in taking this? No, we have already read Bhagavad Gita. Are you leading the life as per Bhagavad Gita? That's the question. Many people have read, early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. And then you're complaining that you're not healthy or you're not wise enough or you're not wealthy enough. Well, that's because you're not following the basic fact of life. Early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. These are facts. So complaining doesn't help, or just saying that, yes, I understand what it means, but not following, and then comparing yourself with others or criticizing others, those who have it, is not going to help. So we have to be afraid of these three C's: not to criticize, not to compare, and not to complain. Because these are the three C's who are like scissors who are pulling us down, who are cutting our progress on our path back home, back to Godhead. And follow from ourselves. And when we express this to Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, he said, why don't you qualify yourself that you can teach these parents? And so Devi and I, we became qualified, we were certified Bhakti Shastri teachers. And of course, once we did this, it increased our attraction towards Srila Prabhupada's books. And so we started reading more and more books to understand the deep subject matter. And as educators, we realized that we may be providing different level of education on the material life aspects, but this is the true education that goes beyond life, that goes and helps a soul to go back home, back to Godhead. And His Holiness Hanuman Priksha Maharaj, once we were discussing with him, he was saying, who benefits the most when you teach others? The student? Said no. The audience who's listening? Said no. Then who? We were surprised. Like, who could it be? Those are the two people. He said the faculty. Those who are studying to teach gets the most benefit. So again, all these leadership roles that we are discussing in this verse today are the ones who benefit the most by carrying out those orders. Guru na sasya swajano na sasyat pita na sasyaj janani na sasyat devam na tatsya na patishcha sasyan namo chayedya samupreta mrityum. My dear devotees, we can reflect on these things, right? Who are we accepting as leaders in our life? Do they know the path beyond birth and death? Or are they just busy teaching us how to decorate a cage on samsara? We have to look things with the right perspective. We have to see what is important in life and help us understand things in that perspective is to really reflect what are the next steps, right? We can ask ourselves, what's that one moment that we felt truly connected to Krishna? Who led us to have this connection? We should be grateful instead of criticizing others. We can talk about 5 practices that can help maintain us, even all the way to the deathbed in Krishna consciousness. So this is very important. Sometimes people, they don't have abilities to even, there's a story, there's like one of the Srila Prabhupada's disciples, she was a great painter. And in her state, once, she was in such a state that she couldn't even chant on her beats. So we have to see things from their perspective as well, from that perspective. That we have to help ourselves, charity begins at home, and also help those who are dependent on us. And one has to put endeavor efforts always to avail full mercy of mentor or guru or Krishna. Doing time management, mind management, and bhakti management. These things are very important. And those, who don't deviate from their path and following these principles of management for the pleasure of Radha Krishna, for the pleasure of Sadhguru and Shastra in alignment, benefit the most. So, who has contributed most to my spiritual advancement? We should think of that and be grateful to them. How can I thank them? Not just when saying, okay, I'm thankful to them. We should express that and we should show it in our attitude. My father taught me something very simple, that every time you cross a teacher when walking in the school building, wish them. Even though you're crossing them for the third time or fourth time during the day, you should smile, look at them and say, good morning, sir, good afternoon, ma'am. That way, there is some blessings automatically, immediately comes as a reciprocative, as a reciprocation. And now that I am retrospecting, why was I a great, very brilliant student as per other students when they were comparing? I was saying actually it was the mercy of the teachers that they enabled us to be where we are today. And we should look at 3 habits that keep us in this samsara, that's binding. We talked about 3 habits of 3 things like that keep pulling us down. What are those 3 C's? Compare, complain, criticize. We should never do these things. And rather, we should always be grateful. And we should ask ourselves, like if my children ask why I practice, what would we tell them? Draft that speech, because they are observing us. Children, they keep their, or dependents, they keep their leaders as their role models. And so when they are asking us questions, that's their curiosity and that should make us happy. Just like when Ajamil could not be brought to Yamloka and the Yamdutas, they were very upset that Yamaraj, you gave us this order, and when we carried out your order, 3 personalities appeared and they stopped us. And so it is you, who is not the supreme authority. And these Yamdutas wanted to commit suicide. They were so upset. And when they expressed this to Yamaraj, Yamaraj was happy that, oh, these servants of mine happened to see Vishnu Dutas. And he was praying to the Lordship, thanking him, my dear Lord, please forgive the mistake of my servants and mine. Yet at the same time, this is a perfect opportunity for me to have some Harikatha. Otherwise, what's the possibility of Harikatha in Yamloka, where everyone is thinking of such a person did good, so it gets good reaction, such a person did bad, gets bad reaction, sufferings and happiness again. And these kind of happiness and distress, they are like alma paina anityas tat titikshasvapata. So we have to become tolerant, as Lord Krishna reveals to Arjun, that these are like summer and winter season. These are the dualities in this material world. We should not be affected by dualities. These are not the real miseries. What are the real miseries? Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanudashni. Birth, death, old age, and disease. And not just disease. Sometimes old age and disease are relevant to this particular body itself. But what's truly, we can look at painful activities. Those are birth and death, and repeated birth and death to be caught up in the cycle of birth and death. And that's why it is said in the Shastras, Brahmar bhavite kauna bhagyavana jiva Guru Krishna prasade paya bhakti lata bija. So it is by great fortunate a wandering soul in this material world, which is like a Ferris wheel. Sometimes so one becomes a demigod and sometimes one becomes a living entity with a material body and a lower species. So such is the Ferris wheel going on, and one is fortunate to receive a spiritual master or a leader who can deliver one from the cycle of birth and death. So today, this was the main focus, my dear devotees, and wanted to share with you that this verse is a very famous, very important verse, so that we should look at it. Now we are in a leadership role, so what should we do? We have to qualify ourselves. We have to make an effort And if we don't feel that we have the ability, then we have to accept those who can help us in our ability to be able to deliver our dependence. Hare Krishna, Gantra Srimadbhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna Devi, would you like to add?
Hare Krishna. So I just wanted to quickly add, for benefit of those who don't have much background with Srimad Bhagavatam, I think this will really help them. The context is that this verse and previous few verses, so all have heard about King Rishabdev. Prabhuji mentioned that he is giving spiritual instructions to his sons and dependents, and he is guiding them in transcendental devotion, which is bhakti, rather than material engagement, material pursuits. So in material consciousness, that's how mentors and elders and caregivers and parents, this is how they guide. They guide their dependents, how they can do better in life, how they can make more money, dharma, arth, kam, moksha. But here, Rishabdev's situation is, he's in the role of a spiritual father. He's a guide and teacher to his sons, and he's imparting teachings on devotional life and proper use of human life. He sees that many people are working so hard day and night for sense gratification, which we commonly read as eat, sleep, mate, defend. Animals also do that. Prabhupada explains that nicely. So this is explained in his teachings, and he wants that this is not a proper use of human life. And because he is spiritually advanced, or he has realized the higher truths, he feels responsible to guide his children, his progeny, so that they do not remain bound by cycle of birth and death. So if we can get the message right, we would want to work on ourselves, and then we would want to help those who are dependent on us. So just like Rishabdev, he wants his sons to transcend material existence. So he's saying, if you cannot really free your dependent sons, disciples from bondage of repeated material death, then you are unqualified to be a teacher, father, worshipable being. If someone initially reads it, they should not get demotivated that what is my position? I can't even chant properly. I can't even practice bhakti. So what did I do? Now I have progeny, and so things can look very depressing. But if you look at it the other way around and take motivation from this, that following in the footsteps of the Goswamis and those who are showing the path, just like Rishabdev is ensuring his sons are elevated above material ambitions so that he can discharge the duty of spiritual fatherhood properly. We also have hope. Now, what is the case of those whose children are all grown up on their own, but they won't listen and they are stubborn? Let's say they don't want to have any kind of interference and they don't want to listen. Well, as parents and well-wishers, we have to constantly hold them in our prayers. We have to offer them prasadam. They may not take it, but we should not leave any opportunity, quit all laziness, have prasadam ready for them. Now, what is the situation of his sons, his dependents? They are in material condition. They are ordinarily inclined towards sense enjoyment. And this will take just 1 to 2 minutes and we are done. So they are ordinarily inclined towards sense enjoyment. They are in ignorance. They are heavily entangled in fruitive actions, just like we read about Puranjan's story, King Prachin Bharishat in Canto 4. So now this is yet another example. So in such a situation, a living entity is in danger of being bound by repeated cycle of birth, old age, death, disease, unless they accept guidance and enter the path of devotional service. The real challenge comes, one has to creatively come up with ideas how to preach. You can preach the world, but to preach your family is a real challenge. And so the teachings in this chapter, they guide us to abandon fruitive activities, give up identifying with the body or home, engage in austerities, cultivate knowledge from revealed scriptures, and do the necessary, whole process is described, and so that we can fix our mind fix our thought on Supreme Lord. So now something which will help everyone is Rishabhde's sons are in a transitional state. They are not yet fully spiritually awakened or liberated. So they need instruction from their father to become free from illusions and bondage. That's it. This is all I wanted to quickly add. Thank you everyone for joining us today.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So again, sharing this gem from Srimadbhagavatam helps us understand our current position and from both angles, where we are dependent on leaders who are above us, yet at the same time, those who are dependent on us and looking at our leadership. Gantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhagavad ki jai, Dant Kodaveshwam Vind ki jai, Nitai Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bo. Om Tat Sat. Have a wonderful week in Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.